Welcome to AK Anime Explainer. Today is explanation of Soul Land 3, Legend of the Dragon King Part 287. Without any delay, start explanation. As mentioned by Mo Lan, Tang Wulin would be facing the great forces of the entire continent if he were to proceed with rebuilding Shrek Academy. Without adequate preparation and assurance, the Academy could not have a strong and firm presence. If he could not do it openly, then, how about covertly? Although the information from Mo Lan was not all that optimistic, it was still helpful to Tang Wulin. At least, it would compel him to be more prudent in his actions and less likely to act impulsively. A faint smile emerged on Tang Wulin's face, making for a more wholesome expression. If the Holy Spirit cult was capable of concealing itself so well, why was Tang Wulin not allowed to conceal Shrek as well with the support from the Tang sect? At any rate, he decided to return to Shrek City to assess the situation. Tang Wulin understood the importance of the information that he wished to gather from the trip to Mingju. Next, he would execute his plan a step at a time. The next morning, Tang Wulin brought along Long Yushue and company as they boarded separate Seoul trains and headed straight to the former site of Shrek City. The 27 people in the unit went to 5 different cars. Tang Wulin was with Long Yushue, disguised as a couple. Apart from Tang Wulin, who wore makeup and used a fake identification card which had the name Long Yu, the rest of them retained their true identities since their identities were less sensitive. Tang Wulin sat in the Seoul train and looked at the scenery passing by at full speed. He was overwhelmed with emotions. He was anticipating an opportunity to avenge his deceased teachers and schoolmates from Shrek Academy if the Holy Spirit cult were to hijack the train now. However, it had been a long time since the Holy Spirit cult launched any surprise terrorist attacks. They had only appeared once in the Blood God army. It was rather puzzling as they had not encountered any devastating blow, yet they vanished so suddenly. Tang Wulin felt that the Holy Spirit cult was palliating its presence to trigger a war. The Federation's military force and troops inside would certainly be deployed, making the Federation vulnerable when war was waged. By then, the resulting catastrophe would be even more severe when the Holy Spirit cult launched a terrorist attack. To rebuild Shrek, Tang Wulin would need to monitor the various external forces such that they would act as checks and balances over one another. This way, they would not disrupt the Academy's restoration. In the meantime, Tang Wulin could destroy the principal culprit of the Holy Spirit cult. The first step is always the hardest. Undoubtedly, in his present state of mind, Tang Wulin found the going tough indeed. Especially after the information exchange with Mo Lan, he understood well enough that he should not rush the process as it would only result in overreaction. They were the only vestiges left of Shrek Academy, so they could not afford to make any mistakes. They would need to act cautiously and spend a long time tempering themselves and not blindly risk themselves. After all, Tang Wulin and his comrades were still far from being considered powerful. Just as Tang Wulin was done disguising himself, he brought along the Blood Dragon unit as they left Mingju. Shenxing sat gloomily in her room. Vanished? The evil boy vanished into thin air and didn't even leave behind a trace. How's that possible? Ever since she left Mo Lan the other day, she had secretly deployed people to check on Tang Wulin. Contrary to her expectations, her people managed to keep up with Tang Wulin when he left Mo Lan's office building. However, Tang Wulin disappeared without a trace, akin to a wild goose that flew into the unseen world, just after he got down from the car midway and passed by a market. From the day she encountered Tang Wulin in her drunken state, she realized that the boy was skilled in makeup. So, it made the search for him even more difficult. It can't be. It's not easy to get a hold of him. I can't just allow him to walk away from my sight. After much consideration, Shenxing decided to look up Mo Lan for an explanation. Sister Mo Lan. Shenxing was all smiles when she pushed open the door to Mo Lan's office. Why are you here again, little girl? What's the matter? Oh right, I've forgotten to tell your sister about the incident the other day. Coincidentally, your presence here reminded me. I'll give her a call right away. She was about to dial the soul communicator as she spoke. Shenxing circled past the office table hastily to grab Mo Lan's hand. Please don't, sister. Since you forgot, just cast it to the wind then. Tee hee. I'm here to see you because I need your help. Mo Lan darted her a look. She said, "What is it? Speak up." Xinxing spoke with a sad look on her face. "What else if not because of that archenemy of mine? I couldn't find him after our quarrel the other day. Otherwise, why would I act so impulsively and mobilize the military to capture him? Sister, do you know his whereabouts? I'm dying from anxiety to look for him." Mo Lan looked at her with a sly smile. "Is he truly your boyfriend? Little Xing, you're a decent maiden. The friendship of our clan spans generations. Tell me the truth. What happened actually? Let me ask you a simple question first. Do you know his name? Do you know who he is?" Xinxing was stunned for a moment. She then answered furiously, "He's a student from Shrek Academy. Of course, I know that. Sister, she suspected that Mo Lan had an unusual relationship with Tang Wulin." Mo Lan heaved a soft sigh. "Little Xing, there are some people that you just shouldn't engage. I can tell that you like him, but you should know that loving a person like him may affect you adversely for the rest of your life. Even your family will not approve of your relationship. I'm sure you know about the matter with Shrek Academy. If you truly wish him well, then it's best that you don't mention your encounter with him to the others. He has a precarious identity. Besides, quite a number of people are looking for him as well." Xinxing frowned. "Sister, what do you mean?" Xinxing heaved a sigh. "I'm not supposed to tell you the details. I can only say he's not for you. Loving him is akin to a flying moth darting into the fire. Most probably, you may end up as crushed powder or ashes. It's not the path for you." "No, I don't believe that. Moreover, I don't love him, I'm only..." At this point, Xinxing stamped her foot abruptly as she shouted out in rage, "Did he tell you everything?" Mo Lan looked toward her with a burning gaze. "What do you think?" Xinxing spoke in exasperation. "Where's he? I wish to meet him and ask him in person." "He?" Mo Lan looked at Xinxing with gentle eyes. She stood up and patted Xinxing's head. "Silly girl, I've gone through it all before. So, how can I not know about your desires? You've truly fallen in love with him. However, forget about him. He is poison to you. Do you know how heavy his responsibility is after Shrek Academy was destroyed? He's barely breathing shouldering this responsibility. How can he possibly be in love with you? Moreover, your status is incompatible. How are you going to face your grandfather, father, and sister if you get involved with him? If a beloved maiden of the Shen clan is married to a student from Shrek Academy, do you know that it may be a devastating blow to your clan? Can you imagine how severe the repercussions will be with this relationship? It's not something you're capable of facing. So, give it up then. It's utterly impossible for you to be with him. Forget about him and live your life." "No!" Xinxing suddenly shouted aloud. Her pearly white teeth bit her lower lip. She did not realize it, but her eyes were already brimming with tears. "I'll find him for sure. I'll find the scoundrel for sure. I'm going to kill him and take vengeance on him." She retreated slowly as she was speaking. Suddenly, she turned around and ran away. Mo Lan shook her head helplessly as she gazed after her. This little brother of mine. He's still as attractive as before despite not doing a thing. I'll be attracted to him too, if only I'm 10 years younger. Regardless of his looks or abilities, he's attractive to the opposite sex. However, he mentioned that he already has a lover. I wonder who she is. Forget it. I must inform Shenyu of this matter. Mo Lan and Shenyu were best friends since their younger days when both clans had a tight-knit relationship. Later, they parted and embarked on different paths when they were older. Undoubtedly, Shenyu was more outstanding when she was young, but it did not affect their friendship. That was why Mo Lan treated Xinxing like her little sister. "Shenyu, it's me. I've something to tell you. It's about Xinxing." In the headquarters of the Mingdu Garrison Command. Shenyu felt unpleasant after she hung up the call. She had discovered way back that her sister was behaving oddly. She had this peculiar behavior when she was in the North Sea Army Corps in the beginning. She became increasingly moody upon coming back. How could she not know of Shenxing's excessive drinking? For that, she had reprimanded her on many occasions. Yet, Shenxing just cried and had told Shen Yu that she was just having trouble sleeping at night. She had severe insomnia and could not sleep without having a drink. She felt like she was about to have a mental breakdown soon. Feeling helpless, she could only follow her little sister's wishes. After all, Shenxing did not have any problems in other aspects. After her experience in the North Sea Navy Corps, she became more outstanding with each passing day. She had even attained the rank of a 5-ringed Soul King. With her cultivation base, even if she was drunk, it would be difficult to threaten her. Naturally, she strongly believed what Mo Lan said over the phone. Could it be that her little sister's serious insomnia was because of that guy? The handsome face appeared in Shen Yu's mind. He was a bright-eyed, young man. He appeared calm even when he faced the forces of the North Sea Navy Corps. Shenxing did not know his identity. However, Shen Yu had carried out some investigations after the affair. Although Mo Lan did not mention it just now, his name surfaced in Shen Yu's mind. Tang Wulin, I think his name was Tang Wulin, the leader of Shrek Academy's current Shrek 7 monsters. He's not dead? Didn't he die in that great explosion? According to the information we got, he should have been inside Shrek Academy at the time. Mo Lan was unaware that she had unintentionally exposed the fact that Tang Wulin was still alive to her best friend. It was precisely because she knew Tang Wulin's identity that Shen Yu's expression turned sour. That little sister of hers had fancied a difficult man. What's Tang Wulin doing in Mingju City then? What's he planning to do next? Judging by his importance in Shrek Academy, his objectives are as clear as day. I can't let my little sister involve herself in this. She can't be led astray by him. Men, bring me Lieutenant Colonel Shenxing. No matter where she is, I want to see her within the hour. She definitely could not allow her sister to do as she wished. This matter was important. She must nip the problem in the bud before anything happened. The Seoul Express train was the most convenient means of transportation. Tang Wulin brought his comrades to Heavendoe City safely by train. They only made it as far as Heavendoe City. The former Shrek City transportation hub had been destroyed alongside Shrek City. Nobody thought to rebuild it. Heavendoe City appeared to have regained its charm. It still had its vintage look and atmosphere. It displayed the varied characteristics of the Dolor continent in ancient times. The Blood God Army warriors were curious about this place. Most of them had never set foot on the mainland, nor have they seen such a vintage-looking city. They kept their curious gazes, Long Yushue included. As they moved forward, Tang Wulin made everyone fan out while keeping a certain distance between themselves lest they attracted attention. He was quite familiar with Heavendoe City. Moreover, the Blacksmiths Association's headquarters was here. Let's find a place to stay first. Yushue, I'll leave that to you. Big brother, are you familiar with Heavendoe City? Tang Wulin asked Aruhan. Aruhan caressed his bald head. I think so. I've some recollection of it. Tang Wulin said, you go help Yushue then. She's never been here before. I've something else to do. We'll keep in touch with our soul communicators. He immediately turned around and left. Jiang Wuyue could not help but complained, this fellow is becoming highly irresponsible these days. You don't even get to see much of him lately. Shut up. Long Yushue shot him a glare. Jiang Wuyue shrugged and sighed. This is unfair. Long Yushue ignored him. After she had discussed with Aruhan, she led the others into Heavendoe City. Tang Wulin got in a rented car and drove to a familiar place. He dialed a number on his soul communicator. Very quickly, the call was connected. Wulin, came Zhenhua's voice. Master Uncle, it's me. I'm back. Are you in the headquarters? Tang Wulin briefly explained his current condition. Zhenhua was silent for a moment. Come up then. I'm here. Come through the back door. 5 minutes later, Tang Wulin appeared in Zhenhua's office. Once he entered the office, he saw familiar faces. Zhenhua was not alone. His teacher, Mu Chen, was present as well. Teacher, Master Uncle, Tang Wulin took 2 steps forward and had wanted to salute them. However, Mu Chen stood up and stopped him. Good man. Is it you, the Golden Dragon King who entered the Federal Star Do Battle Network Challenge? Mu Chen said with a smile. Tang Wulin nodded. Mu Chen said, not bad, you didn't embarrass me. With your cultivation base, I think I won't be able to compete with you anymore soon. However, have you slacked in your forging? Zhenhua chuckled, I'll answer this question for him. He hasn't. Also, he'll surpass you very soon. Oh? How do you know? Asked Mu Chen curiously. Zhenhua said with a smile, that old man, Yao Ling, called me yesterday. He lamented that I didn't tell him about having such an outstanding closed-door disciple. This closed-door disciple of mine is called Guu. He displayed a forging skill level that was almost on par with a rank 8 cent craftsman. You tell me, isn't he going to surpass his teacher now? Rank 8? You almost at rank 8. Mu Chen was shocked. He was a rank 8 cent craftsman. He knew how difficult it was to become a rank 8 cent craftsman. When he heard that Tang Wulin was almost at this level, how could he not be shocked? Tang Wulin said, I think I've just gotten some feel for it recently. I've achieved some breakthrough in my spiritual power. That's why my senses toward metals have become more acute. He had a few regrets. In truth, he had not spent much time in forging during the time he spent in the Blood God Army. His forging skills had improved together with his spiritual power, which had been raised to the spirit domain realm. It was because he had the support from the entire Dolor continent plane. He had some inkling of the theories of heaven and earth which he applied in his forging. That was how he improved by leaps and bounds. If he wanted to truly reach the level of rank 8, he would need to put in more effort and practice in his forging. No matter what, it's still good news. I picked the right guy. A saint craftsman in his 20s. Ha ha ha. Mr. President, can you believe this? Even in his calmness, Mu Chen could not help but display a satisfied look at the moment. Zhenhua said pointedly, do you think you're the only one who's contributed to Tang Wulin's improvement? Didn't you hear what he told Yao Ling? He's my disciple. He didn't even mention you. Tang Wulin was speechless. Back then, he had said that he was Zhenhua's disciple so that it would sound more acceptable to Yao Ling. Don't you try to cast a bone between us. It's useless. My disciple is mine. You can drool all you want. Mu Chen did not take the bait. Zhenhua snorted. He looked at Tang Wulin and said, Wulin, what brings you here? Don't be contented just because you've obtained some results. You should know what you'll have to face in the future. It's definitely not something that you can handle with your current cultivation base. Tang Wulin nodded. I understand that, Master Uncle. However, I really have to start making preparations. I never thought that I can begin rebuilding Shrek Academy now, but I have to do some preparatory work first. I want to understand more about the continent, including the conditions of the great forces. I'd also like to know how much manpower we can mobilize from Shrek. Above all, I have to be familiar with the Tang sect conditions. All these take time. That's why I came back first. I'm planning to visit the remains of Shrek City later to survey the grounds. When he said this, his expression darkened. The scene of the Atlas Dolor protecting them from the ultimate explosion in the final moment surfaced in his mind. Zhenhua nodded. Times have changed. You'll have to be extremely cautious. Even our association is not completely safe. What about after your visit to Shrek City? I'd like to hear about your plans. Tang Wulin said, after that, I'll focus my efforts on improving myself and hook up with every form of strength that I can use. Not to worry, I won't act rashly. If I'm going to pull off something big, I'll inform you beforehand. Zhenhua said, no matter what, you have our support. However, you must understand that regardless if it's the Tang sect, some other force, or even us that wants to support you, I'm afraid nobody would make a move to help you if they know nothing about it. Do you understand this? We're not merely being wise for our own protection, more importantly, we are responsible for more than just ourselves. I understand. Tang Wulin nodded. Zhenhua said, if it was 10,000 years ago, many problems could have actually been solved by supreme individual strength alone. I'd advise you to work hard and raise your strength until you're at least a title Dolor. You might even want to cultivate until you're a limit Dolor before you think about restoring Shrek. However, with the advancements in soul technology, I'm afraid that even a title Dolor isn't invincible anymore. If it wasn't as such, nobody could have destroyed the Shrek Academy. That's also why the army's stance is very important. You must gain as much military support as you can. At the same time, be careful of Spirit Pagoda. That Qiangu Dongfeng is an ambitious fellow. It can be said that the Qiangu clan was the greatest benefactor after the Shrek Academy's destruction. Spirit Pagoda also released black spirit souls and greatly reduced the price of artificial purple spirit souls. It is like the sun during high noon right now, so it's best to not risk going against them for the time being. Mu Chen stretched his limbs. As for your forging, if you ever have the need, your uncle master and I will support you. I think you're at the level where you can withstand a 3-word battle armor now, right? Complete your 3-word battle armor as soon as possible. There's no need to push yourself when you've become a title Dolor in the future. Let your uncle master forge a set of heaven-refined metals for you to use for the moment. When you're skilled enough, you can forge another set yourself. Zhenhua could not help but felt insulted after hearing this. What do you mean for the moment? Is my heaven refinement that bad? Mu Chen said with a scornful expression, it is what it is. If you weren't lucky back then, it would have been impossible for you to reach the level of heaven refinement. A pleasant feeling spread within Tang Wulin's heart when he saw his teacher and uncle master bickering with each other. He had not felt such warmth in a very long time. All right, let's not talk about these things. Wulin, since you're almost at rank 8, come forge one more time before you leave, Zhenhua said to Tang Wulin. Without a doubt, he wanted to give Tang Wulin some pointers. Almost reaching rank 8 and actually stepping into rank 8 were two very different things. However, it was still a very important step. If he laid a firm foundation for his 8th rank, the probability of him becoming a divine craftsman in the future would be higher. Although Tang Wulin was already a saint craftsman in his 20s, Mu Chen or Zhenhua had never said that he would definitely become divine craftsman. The rank of divine craftsman was a huge natural chasm for a saint craftsman. If one did not have exceptional luck, one would never make the leap no matter how hard one worked. Mu Chen had been stuck at that stage for 20 years now and he had yet to achieve a breakthrough. Tang Wulin's odds were much higher than his, but nobody could guarantee that he would definitely reach those heights. Okay. Zhenhua's exclusive forging room was undoubtedly the best in the Federation. It was completely isolated from the outside world. The sounds of the forging could only be heard inside the room. It was also of the best quality in terms of defensive properties. Tang Wulin could readily say that this was his favorite place. The rare metals that lined the two walls were enough to make him drool. He had seen some of the rare metals that Zhenhua possessed in pictures only. They were all rare treasures that were priceless. Only a divine craftsman like Zhenhua could own something like this. Zhenhua smiled when he saw Tang Wulin's keen sparkling eyes. If you can break through to the rank of a divine craftsman, everything I have here will be yours, my entire workshop. How does that sound? Really? Tang Wulin's eyes lit up. As an experienced miser, obtaining such an amount of rare items was like having the heavens fall onto his lap. Moreover, these rare metals could not even be bought with money. Zhenhua's forging table was also made from soul-refined metals. It was even coated with a layer of heaven-refined metal. Even a limit Dolor's all-out attack might not be able to destroy it. For a low-rank blacksmith, forging on this forging table was no different from forging on an ordinary forging table. However, for a saint craftsman and above, their success rate could be raised by at least 10%. Almost all of Zhenhua's heaven-refined products were made here. The value of this forging workshop was unimaginable. It was not something that could be measured using money alone. Don't fall for it. If he gave you everything here, it means that his responsibilities will also fall onto you. This belongs to the Blacksmith Association and is not his private property. Mu Chen reminded Tang Wulin from the side. Zhenhua glared at him, feeling embarrassed and angered. Why are you such a blabbermouth? Since you don't want it, are you not letting anyone else have it? Mu Chen smiled. I've already acquired what I wanted the most. If you've made your choice already, you shouldn't regret it. Zhenhua bitterly smiled. I've already regretted it for decades, but what good is it? We cannot turn back time. Also, even if I were to choose again, I think I'd make the same choice. That's who I am, so I can only sigh in despair. Tang Wulin scratched his head and said, Uncle Master, if I accept this forging workshop, does it mean that I'll have to become the Blacksmiths Association's president? Zhenhua smiled. Why not? Don't you think it's about time your Uncle Master finds a successor for himself? I know that you have a lot on your plate, but don't worry. I won't bind you to our association. However, it's still necessary for you to carry the title. After all, if you're able to accept my workshop, you'll have become divine craftsman already. The association needs a divine craftsman to lead it. Okay, I'll promise you. Tang Wulin agreed to it without hesitation. Mu Chen and Zhenhua were slightly shocked. They knew Tang Wulin very well. Although he was young, he was definitely not a rash person when it came to business. Although Zhenhua had many good things here, as a saint craftsman it was not impossible for Tang Wulin to gather these rare metals if he set his mind to it. When Tang Wulin saw his teachers and Uncle Master's shocked expressions, he revealed a smile. I am who I am today because of the great guidance my teacher and Uncle Master gave me. It is also the fruit of the Blacksmiths Association's nurturing. If the association needs help in the future, how can I not offer it? As a disciple, I should help shoulder the worries of my teachers and seniors. Zhenhua guffawed. You're a good man. Well said. Very good. Very good. However, Mu Chen softly sighed. Wulin, you've truly grown up. Although he knew that Tang Wulin was speaking his heart, he also knew that with this move the Blacksmiths Association would be tied together with Tang Wulin to a certain extent. If he wanted to start rebuilding Shrek in the future, how could the association not contribute its strength? It could be said that Tang Wulin with his forthright agreeing of the proposal was hitting two birds with one stone. He had truly grown up. He was no longer pure. Tang Wulin walked up to the forging table. Uncle Master, what metal should I forge? Even for the same soul refinement, if it was done on different metals the forging difficulty would also be starkly different. Zhenhua swung his arm. A piece of metal flew from the rack on the side and dropped onto the forging table. Use this. It's yours if the forging goes well, but if you fail to satisfy me, you'll pay for the metal. Tang Wulin looked downward. He was instantly shocked after seeing the metal. He raised his head again and looked at Zhenhua. Uncle Master, this is too precious. The metal presented before him on the forging table could rank in the top 3 among the hundreds of metals in this forging room in price alone. In terms of rarity, it would not be an exaggeration to say it was the rarest. More importantly, this rare metal was truly very useful to Tang Wulin. He had already prepared the metals that he wanted to use for his 3-word battle armor. All that was left for him was to merge them with his current 2-word battle armor, remold it, and then inscribe the core array onto them. The rare metal before him was most useful as a medium. It could raise the cohesion of any metal to the maximum degree. In other words, with the addition of this rare metal, no matter the number of metals used to forge the alloy, its harmony rate would be 100%. Of course, the prerequisite was that the fuse forge must be successful. Even so, it will greatly reduce the difficulty of the fuse forging. The metal before him was light blue in color. There were golden thread-like objects within it. Golden thread in blue water, metal water harmonizer. That was its name. It contained the attributes of metal and water element at the same time. It also perfectly harmonized the two elements. It had a great affinity with other metals and could merge with any number of metals to become one with them. Due to its rarity, however, its value was much higher than most metals. That was why nobody was willing to let it become an alloy. After generations of Soul Master research, it was eventually discovered that metal-water harmonizer's greatest application was to be used as a medium during fuse forging. Tang Wulin had only seen this rare metal in Zhenhua's workshop. In ordinary times even Zhenhua himself would not use it. If it was a rare treasure for even a divine craftsman, then its value was unthinkable. This small piece of metal could be compared to a divine mecha in value. Zhenhua had wanted to give him such a precious metal. Without a doubt, Zhenhua wanted him to add in more types of metals when he fuse-forged his three-word battle armor to raise its strength to the maximum. That was how much his Uncle Master loved him. Uncle Master, this is too precious. Tang Wulin could not help but voice his mind. Zhenhua pointedly said, "What? Do you think that it's yours already? You're taking this task too lightly. Before you use metal-water harmonizer as a spirit medium of a certain rank, you'll have to forge it to the said rank beforehand. It's the metal with the most probabilities. It's not that easy to soul refine it. Do you think that I'll give it to you if it were possible for it to be heaven refined? The metal-water harmonizer could not be heaven refined?" This was Tang Wulin's first time hearing about this. He reckoned that such mysteries would only be known by a divine craftsman like his Uncle Master. This was because he was the only person who had the ability to attempt heaven-refining metal-water harmonizer. The metal-water harmonizer was so precious that ordinary people would have locked it up in a safe even if they only had a small piece of it. Anyone who would think about heaven-refining it was no doubt a top expert on the continent. Naturally, they would not spread information like this to reduce the price of metal-water harmonizer. You may begin now. If you can successfully soul refine it, then it will be yours. Otherwise, I'm taking it back, Zhenhua said with a serious expression. All right. Tang Wulin did not turn down the offer anymore. He actually had a great need for the metal-water harmonizer. If he had it, he could at least add 2 more metals to his original plan of fusing for metals for his three-word battle armor. The fuse forge of the 6 metals was what he had wanted for a long time. A fuse forge of 6 metals was extremely rare even among 4-word battle armors. It could greatly strengthen his battle armor. With the metal-water harmonizer, the success rates would be greatly increased. He could even improve the metal's harmony rate and lay a firm foundation. As long as he could complete forging a 3-word battle armor as such, Tang Wulin was confident that he could fight with a title Dolor ranked expert even if his opponent had a battle armor of the same rank. He steadied the metal-water harmonizer and placed it in the center of the forging table. Tang Wulin did not rush to start his forging, nor did he calcinate it. Instead, he slowly closed his eyes and felt the metal with his spiritual power. His spirit domain rank spiritual power was as if it had substance. It surrounded and covered the metal-water harmonizer. He silently felt its specialty and vitality. Zhenhua and Mu Chen stood not far behind him. Mu Chen was still okay because he felt nothing, however Zhenhua's expression changed. A hint of shock flashed across his face. Although he could not compare with a powerful title Dolor in terms of individual combat strength, as a divine craftsman he was definitely not inferior to one in terms of spiritual power. Without a spiritual power foundation of spirit domain, it was impossible for him to complete heaven refinement. It was because of his great talent with regards to his spiritual power that he was able to become a divine craftsman. Hence the very instant when Tang Wulin unleashed his spiritual power, Zhenhua had felt that substantial spiritual power. In addition to that, it had perfectly merged with the outside world. Was that not a characteristic of the spirit domain? Within a certain range, spirit domain spiritual power could produce an effect that allowed one to sense the minutest of the existences. Good man. No wonder he's achieving breakthroughs at such a quick pace. To think that his spiritual power is already at such levels. It's incredible. While he praised him in his heart, Zhenhua could not help but nod silently. His confidence in Tang Wulin's ability to become a divine craftsman in the future increased. A faint smile flashed across his face. Junhua made a sign to Mu Chen beside him. Mu Chen did not understand at first, but when Junhua projected his voice to him, he could not help bulging his eyes either. As a rank 8 Sync craftsman, his spiritual power was still some steps away from spirit domain. This was also one of the important reasons why it was not possible for him to achieve the ranks of a divine craftsman in this lifetime. However, he had never expected Tang Wulin to have already achieved what he could not. Tang Wulin did not notice the exchange between Junhua and Mu Chen. All his attention was focused on the metal water harmonizer in front of him. Feeling with his spiritual power and seeing with his eyes were completely different things. This metal water harmonizer was full of energy in his spiritual power senses. Does it possess a life source of its own? In other words, the metal was already in a state similar to ones that had been soul refined. How could he not be shocked by this? When he carefully looked at it, he could notice that the internal structure of the metal water harmonizer was very stable, but it was very active as well. The fusion of the metal and water elements was without blemish. It could only be described as perfect. However, the metal element was flowing and ceaselessly changing under the cover of the water element. It was continuously changing its wave structure. Even the most unstable metal Tang Wulin had seen could not be compared with the metal water harmonizer before him. Its vitality could be described as a current. It seemed to have its own special space in which the metal and water elements circled each other in a back and forth motion as they flowed and transformed. This was too interesting. The edge of Tang Wulin's lips was slightly raised. He was not discouraged by the high level of difficulty that forging it would bring. Instead, he was itching to have a try at it. The others could not grasp its profoundness, but he could sense its real-time transformations with his powerful spiritual power. Without a doubt, the metal water harmonizer's transformations were irregular. If it was an ordinary blacksmith doing the forging, he would not have been able to grasp its special characteristics. Even 100 refinement or 1000 refinement would be extremely difficult, let alone soul refinement. It was different for him. Since it was an elemental fusion metal that was like a living organism, he could attempt to control the metal and water elements with his spiritual power. He did not have to freeze their movements, he only needed to assist them in establishing their regular flow to assist him in his forging. Tang Wulin's spiritual power had already gushed forth as he thought about this. It circled the metal water harmonizer in a back and forth fashion and enveloped it. It ceaselessly pulsed and invaded as it attempted to influence the metal in any way. From Mu Chen's perspective, he could see that a layer of golden and bluish halo had started appearing on the surface of the beautiful metal water harmonizer. The halo hung over the metal like a layer of water vapor. Its halo started shaking. It was not too violent and could still be seen by the naked eye. Good man, Mu Chen thought in his heart. Of course, he had his way of forging the metal water harmonizer. However, there was no way that he could influence the metal with his spiritual power like Tang Wulin. This was beyond his skills, but Tang Wulin was doing just that. A faint smile appeared on Tang Wulin's face. He suddenly opened his eyes. Two purplish lines that seemed to have substance suddenly shot out of his eyes like electricity. It was the Purple Demon Eyes. Purple Demon Eyes was a spiritual attack skill. It was not only a way of increasing ocular strength, but it was also a way to cultivate one's spiritual power. Tang Wulin had been unable to cultivate Purple Demon Eyes to the greatest extent, but after his spiritual power was improved to Spirit Domain, his Purple Demon Eyes had progressed to the 3rd stage. There were a total of 4 stages for Purple Demon Eyes, namely, Survey, Detailed, Mustard Seed, and Boundless. After he entered the 3rd stage, Mustard Seed, Tang Wulin could already control his spiritual power as easily as an arm commanded a finger. He was also capable of seeing extremely minute beings with his eyes. Spiritual power gushed forth from his Purple Demon Eyes, seemingly enveloping all of the metal, giving the surface a faint luster. When it was stimulated by the Purple Demon Eyes, the metal water harmonizer immediately let out a buzz. Instantly, there were gold and bluish sparkles of light which dyed the entire forging room. Tang Wulin raised both of his arms, and his 2 soul-forged heavy silver hammers appeared in his grasp. This pair of forging hammers was not the best in terms of its materials. They were only made of heavy silver, one of the most common of rare metals. However, these heavy silver hammers had been with him from when he had started showing promising results in his forging. They had also undergone blood sacrifice and were connected to his spirit and bloodline. He had forged them step by step until they reached their current rank. It was the pair of forging hammers that were most compatible with Tang Wulin. The surface of the hammers gave off a gentle glow. The heavy silver seemed to have come alive. Tang Wulin did not even calcinate the metal-water harmonizer at all. His pair of heavy silver hammers dropped down brazenly like meteors chasing after the moon. Dang! Dang! The heavy silver hammers crashed upon the metal-water harmonizer. It immediately made the harmonizer's gold-blue glow shine brighter. For a time, the golden and blue lights flashed everywhere. It made the people inside the room feel as if they were in a stupor. The heavy silver hammers in Tang Wulin's hands also lit up in the instant they struck the harmonizer. The brilliant silver light was dazzling and gave a feeling of celestial domination. In terms of the metal's properties, heavy silver and metal-water harmonizer were not on the same level. They were very far apart. However, the heavy silver hammers in Tang Wulin's hands were already soul-forged. They had complete dominance over the metal-water harmonizer. The hammers dropped down rhythmically. It was ingenious. With the guidance of Tang Wulin's spiritual power, the metal-water harmonizer's gold-blue sparkles instantly slowed down slightly under the shine of the silver light. Turn! Tang Wulin shouted. Immediately, even Zhenhua and Mu Chen felt their spirits shake. It was as if their blood started churning intensely within their bodies. They were both beings with soul cores. The soul power around his soul core flowed fiercely and started swirling at a high speed. It made his body's surface shine with his soul power's glow. What was this ability? Zhenhua and Mu Chen were flabbergasted. They had seen their fair share of the world's mysteries. However, they had never met someone who could affect another person's soul power through his voice. Even though they did not protect themselves, Zhenhua still had a title Dolor's cultivation base, whereas Mu Chen was only a step away from becoming a title Dolor. Tang Wulin was inferior to them in terms of soul power, but he was still able to affect them with a simple word. Just what kind of terrifying power was this? They had not seen each other for a few short months, but there was no doubt that Tang Wulin's pace of growth had exceeded their expectations. Something odd then occurred. The metal-water harmonizer's gold-blue glow started swirling like a vortex when Tang Wulin yelled. At first, the two colors were not evenly spread, but soon enough, their trajectories slowly converged and the two colors merged, distributed evenly. These were not the fruits of Tang Wulin's forging skills. Tang Wulin had used the natural talent that was unique to him alone, Dragon Might. His Dragon Might's intimidation had formidable spiritual power, to begin with. Then, when Tang Wulin reached the cultivation base where he obtained his martial soul avatar and his spiritual power progressed into spirit domain, the Golden Dragon King's natural talent started awakening as well. The two incredible natural abilities of Dragon Might and Dragon Air had greatly strengthened Tang Wulin's cultivation base. At the same time, both of them could also be applied to any combat style of his. Tang Wulin raised his heavy silver hammers and a faint smile appeared on his face. His hammers fell again, but it seemed that were doing so very slowly. When the pair of heavy silver hammers struck the metal-water harmonizer again, a series of dense clanging sounds were heard as well. That was the sound of layer upon layer of metals striking each other. Even with the stacked hammers, it was not possible to produce that many strikes. Zhenhua saw it. In that instant, Tang Wulin's wrists wriggled and completed a triple stroke. With the addition of the stacked hammers, that was 9 strikes, and with his pair of hammers, it amounted to 18 strikes. A triple stroke was not a powerful technique, as some soul-refined rank blacksmiths could do that as well. However, executing a triple stroke on the metal-water harmonizer was not ordinary. For a start, the blacksmith had to be extremely confident, and they had to have a complete understanding of the metal's unique properties. Even with Mu Chen's forging prowess, he would not simply forge the metal-water harmonizer with such a skill, let alone when there were stacked hammers. Mu Chen opened his mouth to say something, but just then, a beam of brilliant light suddenly burst forth. The golden and blue light seemed to have merged into one in an instant, forming a bluish-golden column of light which shot into the skies. The forging room was large enough. To their surprise, this beam of light had risen a foot high. The blue-gold light was extremely brilliant and brimmed with energy. It seemed as if it wanted to fill the entire world. Grade 1000 refined. 1000 refined with spirit. Mu Chen stared at this scene with his mouth agape. He nudged Zhenhua beside him. It was as if he was asking, "You all right? Are you sure you're all right?" When grade 1000 refined was completed, the higher the light column rose, the higher the quality of the 1000 refined product. A foot-long glow could qualify the result as grade 1000 refined, and a good quality one at that. Ordinary metals could give off 5-foot-long glows, and that was the maximum. Without a doubt, the quality of the metal-water harmonizer itself was good enough. However, Mu Chen and Zhenhua were well informed of the difficulty of forging it. It was not an easy feat to complete grade 1000 refined on this metal, which was full of energy and could even be described as unruly, let alone making the light rise by 1 foot. Zhenhua's expression became very strange. He stared at Mu Chen, then he nodded to show that he could still withstand this. As a divine craftsman, it was true that he could accomplish the great feat of making the metal-water harmonizer's light rise by a foot, but he had kept a secret as well. The hidden truth was that if he wanted to make the light rise a foot, the preparations he would have to make and the time he would have to spend forging it would at least be twice what Tang Wulin had done. In other words, in terms of 1000 refining the metal-water harmonizer, even though he was a divine craftsman, Tang Wulin was better. However, Mu Chen was unaware of the thoughts that went through Zhenhua's heart. He appeared resentful. It was true that he did not have such abilities. It was natural for him to feel contempt. Zhenhua stared at Tang Wulin with unblinking eyes. Of course, the reason he had picked the metal-water harmonizer was to help Tang Wulin, but it was not as if he had no intention of examining him. He also wanted to see what kind of level Tang Wulin's forging was currently at. This was highly significant as to what kind of path he would allow Tang Wulin's forging to tread in the future and how he would attain the rank of a divine craftsman. However, he never expected Tang Wulin to give him such a great surprise so soon. Without a doubt, the reason he was able to complete 1000 refinement was because of his loud shout. Through that yell and under his spiritual power's guidance, it had made the metal-water harmonizer reach a delicate balance in an instant. Its internal energy became rhythmic. After Tang Wulin mastered that rhythm, the 1000 refinement was complete. Whether it was the creation of the rhythm or guiding the metal-water harmonizer and seizing the exact moment to complete 1000 refinement, he had executed them in an almost perfect manner. A faint glow appeared on Tang Wulin's face. He moved quickly and leaped suddenly. His pair of heavy silver hammers struck the risen light dead on. The bluish, golden glow crumbled under the soul-forged heavy silver hammers, forming halos which spread outward. A deep dragon's roar also came from Tang Wulin's mouth. The dragon's roar was slightly deep and unending. The scattered blue-gold halos seemed to be being guided. They rhythmically circled the metal-water harmonizer, coloring it with their hues. He was solidifying and stabilizing the metal state. Zhenhua raised his eyebrows slightly. Is there anything that this young man can't do? Tang Wulin's pair of heavy silver metals dropped down like raindrops pattering on banana leaves. The dragon's roar still came steadily out of his mouth. The dragon's roar was ceaseless. It maintained a particular range of pitch from the beginning to the end. As the roar continued, the bluish, golden light released by the metal-water harmonizer's soul forging lingered on for a long time, circling the metal, before dispersing. Allowing the spiritual light to return and forge on was a method that Zhenhua taught Tang Wulin. With this, he could retain the metal's intelligence to the greatest extent. However, continuing to forge under such conditions was exceedingly difficult. Zhenhua had previously told him to not simply try this if he did not have enough spiritual power. Even if he did, he would still have to be careful. This was because every attempt at forging like this would cost him a great amount of spiritual energy. If he was not careful, it might affect his soul C. Naturally, Tang Wulin did not need to worry about that problem for now. His spirit domain spiritual power was sufficient enough to support him through any kind of forging. A faint smile appeared on his face, and a bright light flashed across his eyes. His heavy silver hammers quickened and the dragon's roar from his mouth rose in pitch. This time, he did not use dragon might. Instead, it was a combination of the golden dragon roar and dragon might. He combined the two forces and infused them into his forging. With the power of dragon might and the golden dragon roar directed at the metal element, he was able to control it so that it flowed according to his will, and he infused his dragon might into it to complete their fusion. He would not give away this metal water harmonizer to anyone. This was a great opportunity for him to forge his three-word battle armor to its ultimate form. How could he not unleash his forging abilities to the greatest extent when he forged the metal? What Tang Wulin wanted to do right now was to complete soul forging on this metal water harmonizer no matter the cost. The soul forging had to be close to perfect as well. Boom! 10 minutes later, when Tang Wulin's hammers dropped down in unison and struck heavily on the metal water harmonizer's surface, the bluish-golden light suddenly froze. Shortly after, a blue-gold vortex appeared out of thin air around the metal. It rapidly absorbed the various heaven and earth elements in the air. The soul forging was a success. Thousand refined with spirit, creation spirit forging. The dense life source it contained made everyone feel as if they were in a forest. The joy and glee which burst forth from the metal water harmonizer had affected every other metal in the forging room. Some high-grade metals were even buzzing slightly in response. It was as if they were congratulating it and paying it tribute. The creation of a metal was a miracle of spirit forging. The higher the metal's grade, the greater the difficulty for it to be spirit forged. The bluish, golden vortex rippled violently. Tang Wulin took a step back and tried to catch his breath. In the next instant, his eyes suddenly brightened again. He abruptly struck his chest with his right heavy silver hammer, giving off a muddled thump. There was the sound of an intense heartbeat. Tang Wulin opened his mouth and shot out a mouthful of blood arrows which landed directly in the center of the vortex. Blood sacrifice. This was Tang Wulin's second blood sacrifice in this lifetime. His first blood sacrifice was carried out on the pair of heavy silver hammers in his hands. His second blood sacrifice was given to the metal water harmonizer. Compared to his first blood sacrifice back then, the intensity of the effects this time could not be comprehended logically. At this point, Tang Wulin had already broken through his 11th Golden Dragon King seal. His blood was no longer human. He could even be regarded as half a dragon clansman right now. That mouthful of Golden Dragon King blood contained the purest life source of a king. The density of the life force and the purity of the Golden Dragon King bloodline were unparalleled. Hence, when this mouthful of fresh blood fell onto the surface of the metal, the entire metal water harmonizer instantly gave off a loud buzz. Shortly after, the buzz turned into a dragon's roar. The bluish, golden halo instantly turned into a dragon in the air. It circled the metal water harmonizer and started swirling jubilantly. With this blood sacrifice, he had greatly raised the grade of the metal water harmonizer. The bluish, golden dragon silhouette entered and exited the metal water harmonizer. It continuously reformed and purified the newly created life. Tang Wulin was slightly pale. The blood he had spat out just now was not ordinary blood. That blood had contained his essence. He had put a lot on the line so that his forging of the metal water harmonizer could reach perfection. Jinhua raised his eyebrows slightly. Good man, he's decisive. Also, he had great confidence in himself. A soul master's essence was of the utmost importance. The more powerful the soul master's cultivation base, the more precious his essence. This was because it had contained a lot of his energy. If he spat out blood that contained his essence, he might not fully recover from it for a few months. It might even result in the weakening of his cultivation base. It was apparent from Tang Wulin's actions that he held this metal water harmonizer in high regard. Also, after he completed blood sacrifice, even if his soul refinement was not successful in the end, this metal water harmonizer could not be given to anybody else. The blood sacrifice was already done, and he had placed his mark. The metal could only belong to him. This man was truly a miser. However, this had also displayed the absolute confidence Tang Wulin had in his forging. He was sure that he would complete soul refinement. Otherwise, the blood sacrifice would have been a waste. The soul core and dragon core within him pulsed with the same rhythm. It silently felt the intimacy from the fusion of the metal-water harmonizer and his bloodline. The Golden Dragon King bloodline was so domineering that it had completely fused as one with the metal-water harmonizer in the blink of an eye. A faint smile appeared on Tang Wulin's face. He could feel that throughout the process of the blood sacrifice, the final impurities within the metal-water harmonizer were completely removed. Also, it had already begun an intriguing relationship with his spiritual power. Tang Wulin could control the various origin energies and heaven and earth elements in the air through his spirit domain spiritual cultivation base, but he could not directly control a solid object's internal structure with his spiritual power unless he was launching a spiritual attack. However, after the blood sacrifice, he could already control this metal-water harmonizer with his spiritual power through the relationship between it and his bloodline. Although he paid a great price by doing the blood sacrifice, he had also laid a firm foundation for his upcoming soul refinement. A sonorous dragon's roar came from Tang Wulin's mouth. Golden scales suddenly emerged from beneath his skin. He grew in height, while the pair of heavy silver hammers in his hands were infused with his Golden Dragon King bloodline power and turned golden. He no longer appeared to be human, no matter how the others looked at him. Dragon might burst forth from his body. Even Mu Chen and Zhenhua could not help but show changes in their expressions. They instinctively took a few steps backward. Then, they saw that Tang Wulin had resumed his forging. Since when was this young man so powerful? Why do I have the feeling that I'll soon be no match for him? Mu Chen projected his voice to Zhenhua in shock. Zhenhua replied pointedly, "You are already no match for him. If my senses are correct, his cultivation base is already at a 7-ringed Soul Saint's rank. With the addition of his bloodline power, you wouldn't stand a chance in a solo fight with him. Of course, he's still some ways further from my rank." Don't give me that nonsense. If you're so great, try fighting without your full-word battle armor. I don't believe that you can beat him without your armor. If you're so formidable, you shouldn't use your divine mecha either. If it's one-on-one, and he's also not wearing his battle armor, do you think you can beat him? Mu Chen chastised him mercilessly. Zhenhua snorted. I am the Blacksmiths Association's president. Menial tasks such as fighting are done by barbarians. I won't dirty my hands with such things. Mu Chen guffawed. At the same time, he was inwardly shocked. Could it be that even the title de l'Orange Zhenhua did not have the confidence to beat Tang Wulin under fair circumstances? Had this young man become so powerful already? He had to look at Tang Wulin with different eyes now. No wonder he dared to return at this moment. He had some hidden secrets of his own already. The duo talked no more. They stared at Tang Wulin's forging with unblinking eyes. From the way he forged, they could tell that although Tang Wulin was already at a rank 8 Saint craftsman's door, he was still some ways away from becoming a true rank 8 Saint craftsman, but he was supporting his forging with methods that were unavailable to ordinary Saint craftsmen. Every time his pair of heavy silver hammers struck, a deafening dragon's roar was heard. Fortunately, they were inside Zhenhua's forging workshop. If they were in any other place, the level of noise would have already attracted a huge crowd. As the dragon's roar continued, it seemed as if a golden dragon was infused into the metal-water harmonizer with every strike of his hammers. The bluish, golden glow given off by the metal-water harmonizer became more transparent. This video will end here. Like video and subscribe to my channel.